Next year, the Illinois basketball team has two players in their backcourt who could compete for all Big Ten. And the following year, they add a guard who's going to be playing for Team USA over summer. Now, some have asked, is that going to be a Three's Company situation or a Three's a Crowd? Locked on Illini, let's go.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, and thank you once again for making Locked On Illini your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Sonny Verma. You can catch me at IlliniCast. It's been an incredible week. Again, we're doing fantastic numbers, in particular on the podcast side. So those of you listening to me on the podcast, I appreciate it. I'm getting downloads from Europe, downloads from Angola. If that's you, say hello. I want to hear from you, whether it's a comment on the podcast or on the YouTube page or send me a tweet. I want to know who's listening. But regardless, I just wanted to say thank you all. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got some momentum going. And I sincerely appreciate as we wrap up our second full week. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's been a good week if you're either a current Illini guard or a future potential guard. Obviously, the men's basketball team wrapped up pretty much its roster this week by Kasparas Jakushonis, and we had Jeremiah Fears, who will be a commit next year, be announced that he made the final roster of Team USA. And obviously, if you're a guard, you're in great shape. But it did get some people wondering. If you're a fan of sleepers, I know they tend to get on the nerves of some people with some of their takes, and a lot of people think they kind of antagonize some of the Illinois fans. But they had an interesting show when they talked about Kasparas committing and whether Jeremiah Fears was ultimately happy with this commitment. Having Kylan Boswell, having KJ and Jeremiah all on the same court next year might not be something that Jeremiah and the Fears family is looking forward to. Three guys who they perceive as needing the ball in their hands. Now, the title of this might have been a little clickbaity, okay? And I know, again, the sleepers have a tendency to be perceived as clickbaity, but I just wanted to, it's Friday, so I want to sit back, relax, just have some dialogue with you guys and kind of talk about why I don't think this is going to be the case. And even if it is, I'll deal with it next season. Right now, college is crazy. We literally just replaced 10 players off of our basketball team from last year. We only have 2 guys returning. There's a couple different scenarios for what next year's team is going to look like. And that's Kasparas could have a fantastic season. And what happens if he has a fantastic season? More than likely, he's going to the NBA. He's already got the size for it. He's 6'5". He's 200 pounds. He'll be more than 200 pounds once Fletch is done with him. So he'll already have prototypical NBA size. So under scenario 1, if Kasparas has a fantastic season, then he goes to the next level. Jeremiah Fears and Kylan Boswell is our backcourt next season. Solved. Second scenario is KJ struggles. I know he's done well in the European game, but there's not a lot of European players who can just so easily make the transition to college basketball here in the States. Just ask UCLA. So let's say he does struggle. Well, Jeremiah Fears, if he continues on the trajectory that he's at, he's going to come in next season and, in all likelihood, start with Boswell in the backcourt. KJ will probably have to reevaluate things. Is he content with his path as a basketball player? If he is, then he may understand. If he doesn't, he may be entering the transfer portal. But if he struggled in that first season, that just might be the price that we have to pay. And I think Brad Underwood and I think most fans would be okay with that because Fears is one of the most highly touted recruits we've had in a very, very long time. And if he continues on the pace that he's going at, and he has another fantastic senior season in high school, we want to make sure that he has every opportunity to excel in Champaign. And if that means that we only got KJ for 1 year after a disappointing freshman year, so be it. I don't think any Illini fans would be necessarily that upset. Then there's a third scenario where KJ just plays okay. And he could move on to the NBA, or maybe he didn't play quite well enough to make it to the NBA or be mocked high in those drafts. But he didn't play poor enough where all of a sudden we're trying to replace him. And then it gets kind of tricky. Then you kind of basically, you have to trust the staff. You have to trust Brad. Jeremiah's getting bigger, I feel like, every offseason video I see of him. When he comes in, my guess is Jeremiah might just come off the bench right away. And then I'd say the question is not necessarily Jeremiah or KJ, but maybe DGL. Dre Gibbs Lawhorn. What kind of year is he going to have next year? Because now you're talking about 4 guys. And so I wonder that if DGL doesn't take the jump that I think we all hope that he's capable of making, maybe Fierce takes his spot. And DGL decides to find greener pasture somewhere else. I still find it ironic that he's one of the 2 guys staying onto next year's team just because it seemed like all but certain that he was going to be leaving. Especially if you asked a couple family members of his. But he's staying. And we all appreciate that. But with that, he's got to be able to play that Justin Harmon role, and he's got to make that next step next year. Because if he doesn't, we're going to have the guard talent there. Back to the original point, I don't think that Brad needs to concern himself with whether or not Fears, KJ, and Kylan can coexist in the same backcourt. College basketball now, more than any time before, has essentially become a year-to-year thing. You never know who's going to stick around. You can be nice to freshmen. You can play them all the minutes in the world, and they'll still leave. I know that. Brad knows that because it's happened to Brad. Brad needs to concern himself with the 12 guys he's got in that locker room. And then when the season is over, time to evaluate, time to reevaluate. Every year is essentially about maximization. You can't not take a potential star now because of potential fit down the road. KJ is good enough to be worth the risk of taking. And Fears, everything I've read about him seems like he's all in. So if you pay attention to the Illini and you're kind of involved in the world, I think you can be a little bit more rest assured that there's not going to be a controversy for this year. And ultimately, this year is the only one that matters. The NBA Finals are right around the corner. Is it going to be Boston? Is it going to be Dallas? Regardless, the tickets are going to be extremely expensive. That's why I'm going to use the Gametime app. Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. It's one of my favorite times of the year, at least during the off season. It's preview magazine time. Now, whether you're a Phil Steele guy or if you're a Pick Six previews guy, one of the deadlines I kind of always look forward to is Athlon Sports. They just released their magazine, and one of my favorite sections is they have essentially it's Big Ten coaches talk anonymously about their conference foes every single year. And this year is no different. I kind of like to find out that what other coaches think of other coaches. It's nice to try to get in the heads of these guys who are basically obsessed with football. We as fans, we have our own ideas about how things are going and what kind of momentum is going in. But it's those guys on the field who deal with things a lot more than we do. They kind of have a even better feel, in my opinion, sometimes. So I'm always curious what they think. And this year is no different. So I kind of wanted to go over Athlon Sports, and I'm only reading the reports on Illinois because for Tuesday's episode, upcoming episode, Big Ten Ted's going to come back on as he does every Tuesday. And he's going to essentially start reading off quotes about a certain coach, and it'll be up to me to see if I can figure out who they might be talking about. So I think that's going to be a fun exercise. We'll see how well in tuned I am with the football side of the Big Ten Conference. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely tune into Tuesday's episode. But we'll just go ahead and get started. There was four quotes here about Bret and the Illinois program. And quote number one, Bret Bielema might not be on the hot seat, but this is definitely a prove-it season for him. It feels like they lost their good momentum with their staff and their roster about 2 seasons back. Next up, Bret built the program back up by finding and developing a lot of local and regional guys instead of swinging and missing in places like Texas and Florida. They've lost some key in-state battles recently that hurt them. And another coach says the Donovan Leary kid could push Luke Altmaier. That could be a really interesting quarterback battle to watch. And finally, this isn't a bad roster at all, but if they have another losing season, the momentum will be gone. Now, I know these are coaches that gave these quotes, but it might as well have been me. I agree with pretty much all of them. The first coach who talked about Bret not being on the hot seat, but kind of on standby, depending on how the season went. I agree with that. I'm a big Bret guy. I think Bret is levels above being the best coach in my existence as being an Illinois fan. Now, granted, that bar isn't very high, but I think he's a perfect program builder for what our school needs. But with that comes the pressure of being in the Big Ten, especially now with the amount of financial resources, like the advantages we have over most of the country. You need to take advantage of those resources. And if Bret, for whatever reason, continues to lose momentum, well, then Illinois is going to be one of the top jobs available because Big Ten jobs aren't just always going to be made available. And so when they do, we've already seen Josh Whitman is willing to shell out that cash, and people are going to want that Big Ten job. So I agree with the first coach. The second one, Bret built the program back up by finding and developing a lot of local and regional guys instead of swinging and missing in places like Texas and Florida. I'm not sure how much I agree with that. I guess, because I think of Witherspoon, but I guess that was more of a Lovey guy. Obviously, we just hired a new assistant coach who has roots in Texas. So I think they're changing that. But yes, we've lost some key in-state battles recently. But let's keep things into perspective. The last couple of years with Lovey, we weren't even in those battles. So the fact that we've leveled up to at least we're in the conversation now shows that in the big picture, Bret is making progress. The quote about Donovan Leary pushing Luke Altmaier. I don't think that's going to be the case, but man, Leary had a really good spring game and opened up a lot of eyes, mine included. He's obviously got the bloodline with his brother being a very successful college football quarterback, but I'm very high on Luke Altmaier. I really think he's at minimum a top half Big Ten quarterback with potential to be even higher. I think he was put in a very unfortunate situation last year. And then by the end of the year, he lost his job to one of the hottest quarterbacks in the country. I mean, most people would have lost their jobs to John Paddock. I'd argue Luke Altmaier didn't lose his job. John Paddock simply just took it. And finally, this isn't a bad roster at all, but if they have another losing season, the momentum will be gone. Yeah, I mean, bowl game, we need a bowl game to cement some sort of positive momentum. I think if we win 3 games or we go to 4 games, then questions are going to be asked. And I'm not sure how I'm answering them. So the pressure is definitely on Bret to, at the very minimum, I mean, again, the Las Vegas odds are at 5.5. That's our win total projection for this season. I think we can do it. We're still waiting on one more. Obviously, there's no updates as of Friday to the Zachary Franklin situation, but truthfully, this could go on another month. Illinois has 1 scholarship left on the football side, and if they're smart, they're just going to wait it out. They're going to wait Zachary out. Whoever else that they could possibly give that scholarship to is going to be a depth piece. Zachary isn't a depth piece. He's your starting WR1 the day he steps foot on campus. And he could single-handedly be worth a win in the 2024 season. So definitely check out Athlon. I'll also, once the Phil Steele magazine does come out, I'm going to try to have Phil on. I've already pre-ordered it myself. I do see him making the rounds on other shows. So I'll try to have him booked, and we'll just kind of go through the positions and see what we agree with, see what we don't agree with, what the potential weaknesses are, what the potential strengths are. But yeah, I don't know. What's your favorite? Are you a pick six guy? Personally, lately I've been a pick six previews guy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. Phil Steele is obviously the big name in the industry, but I like Phil Steele, but it's just a lot of words on the page sometimes, and it's kind of hard to read. But let me know what you guys think, which ones you guys like, and if you're pre-ordering, I'm pre-ordering, so I'm going to get mine a little earlier than the general public. But let me know what you think. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. It's Friday, and so Friday, again, this is our 3rd Friday episode now. So basically, essentially all we do is there's a lot of news and notes being dropped during the week. Some I just don't think I can really make an entire segment of, so I kind of jot it down and kind of feel like I can go back to it on Friday and give my thoughts on it. And in my opinion, right now, the big story, fun story, I'll say, is the Illini have announced that for their 100th anniversary at Memorial Stadium, that they're going to go back to their classic helmets. And they showed 3 of the previous ones. You'll find if you're a Illini fan or / historian, you'll recognize them. That you've got the circular Illini, you've got the number with the stars from the Butkus era, and you've got the slanted Illinois. And there's a lot of discussion, a lot of talk about which one is the fan favorite. And I myself, every time I read someone's post on which one they think is the best and why, I see myself agreeing with them. And so my opinion changes seemingly with every tweet I read. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Which one you guys like best, and which one you think you want to see Illinois wear the most next season. I think what they've essentially decided to do is they're going to wear like each helmet 3 or 4 times during the year. I don't know if the uniform is going to match that, if they're going to do like a completely retro look, or if it's just the retro helmet with the current day jersey. I'm not sure. I guess we'll probably just wait till later in the summer. I'm sure Illinois will announce something, but I know you guys are all waiting on pins and needles to hear what my ultimate decision is. And on Twitter, I said that I was going to be in the camp of the slanted Illinois, the one as Jeremy Warner from 24/7 famously equates to the New York Giants jerseys from the 90s. And of course, I see it. I agree with it. Like, yeah, I can see it copying, but everything's copying, right? I mean, even the numbers is essentially copying what Alabama does. Michigan, using Michigan's helmet in every high school district on Friday nights during football season. So I said the slanted Illinois originally, but I've changed my mind. And I'm making it official on the show, so I'm not allowed to change my mind again. I think ultimately my favorite helmet is that numbers with the stars. I'm just kind of picturing what that's going to look like on the football field. I think it's a unique look that no one else in the Big Ten has. And it's the perfect feel of retro, old school, which I like, and uniqueness from everyone else in the Big Ten. I like the eye that we have now, but a lot of the schools have just their letter on their helmet that they just kind of slap on the helmet. Indiana sometimes wears the eye decal on their helmet. I like something that's kind of unique. I like Penn State's just the completely naked helmet. And I think I'm going to make it official. And I want to hear what you guys think. I'm going to go with the numbers and the stars. But I want to hear what you guys think is your favorite helmet. Once again, thank you so much for joining me for another fun week of Locked On Illini. You guys have been wonderful with your support. The feedback I've gotten is fantastic. It gives me inspiration to record a new show for you guys every single day. And the feedback I've gotten from Locked On is fantastic. So thank you for that. We want to make sure they don't regret the decision to really invest some resources in covering the Illini. There's no such thing as too much Illini content. And I just want to remind you again, nobody else is doing this daily like I am. So I don't ask for anything in return. The only thing I ask for is you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to talk to me throughout the day, go ahead and join the Discord. The Discord I started up recently. I'm going to kind of be giving up future tickets. I'm already in discussions with the Illini athletic department about giving away other sorts of prizes. And I think it's going to be worth your time if you're interested in joining. But until then, I just want to say I wish you all a safe weekend. Take care of yourselves. And we'll see you on Monday on the flip side. ILL. Love you guys.